vulnerable relatives and so on. And you can help fill in more details from the picture that Mongezi was sketching out for us. Please feel free to call in and give us a ring, and maybe you've got some thoughts as well as to whether you feel the government response has been adequate. The number for that, voice notes please to 072 702 1702. It's 29 minutes to 4. Right, let's get the very latest eyewitness news. Maki Mulapo standing by. Good afternoon.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. 5 suspects have been arrested for the murder of two women in Porki, in Porki, south of Johannesburg. The 25-year-olds Nontokozo Mazibuko and Andiswa Sontangane were last seen on the 30th of December last year. Their families reported them missing to the police on New Year's Eve when their search started. And on January 8th, their partially decomposed bodies were discovered. However, there was no trace of the car they left home with. A Gauteng police spokesperson, Dimakazo Nebului.
Through intelligence information, the team of investigators managed to trace and arrest 5 suspects and recover an unlicensed firearm on the 13th of January 2026. 4 of the suspects were arrested in Everton, while the 5th one was arrested in Germiston.
The suspects are facing charges of hijacking, kidnapping and murder.
A preliminary investigation led the team to Brad's, where they discovered the victim's vehicle abandoned at a car wash. The vehicle was fixed with false number plates but had the correct disc number. The firearm will be subjected to ballistic testing to determine whether it has been used in the commission of crime.
We move to the National Assembly, where former acting police commissioner Khomotso Phahlane has spent most of his evidence before Parliament's ad hoc committee fighting against his dismissal from the police. Phahlane has also refused to be drawn into discussing the merits of his dismissal in 2020 by the then Minister Fikile Mbalula because his case is still pending before the Labour Appeals Court. Phahlane is giving evidence before the ad hoc committee investigating allegations of police corruption today when it resumed its hearings in Parliament. Babalo Ndenza has more.
Former acting police commissioner Khomotso Phahlane started his evidence by giving the committee context and background around his suspension from the police back in 2017 before he was eventually dismissed in 2020. He was dismissed in connection with an irregular tender from 2014. But Phahlane says he ideally should have been removed by the president as dictated in the constitution and legislation. He says former Minister Fikile Mbalula instead asked him to step aside, a decision he calls illegal.
I was removed from office by the minister who was by law not allowed to do so.
He also told the committee that Senzo Mkunu's chief of staff, Cedric Nkabinde, was telling the truth about a plot to remove him, which was led by people like Paul O'Sullivan.
I'm not here solely to respond to what Mr. Nkabinde had disclosed. Of course, what he said is the truth.
Phahlane is expected to conclude his evidence later today. Babalo Ndenza, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
And in the Western Cape, 7,540 learners are still waiting to be placed in schools. Education MEC David Mania says they've placed 96% in approximate 180,000 learners in schools so far. Mania says they're continuing their efforts to ensure every learner is placed in a school, adding that placements completed so far include grade R.
I can understand that this is a frustrating time for some parents. But we will be working together with schools, districts and parents to ensure that every learner is placed at a school here in the Western Cape.
Premier Alan Winde has added that the department is still receiving late applications for learner placements, adding that it started with learner placements as early as April last year.
It is one of those burdens that you have in a fast-growing province where everybody wants to be. So we welcome people to this province. We actually say to you, please try and get your name in early because it does make it easier for the department. But they are working hard at getting those placements done as quickly as possible.
And the UK government has scrapped plans to make a new digital ID card mandatory to work in Britain. This marks a shift from last year when the government first announced the policy in which Minister Keir Starmer stated that no one would be able to work in the United Kingdom if they don't have a digital ID. This sparked criticism from far-right figures, saying the program would be used to boost government control over people's lives. While the new ID could no longer be mandatory for employment, Finance Minister Rachel Reeves insists the right to work would still become contingent on providing a form of digital verification. A look at your weather. It's a partly cloudy afternoon in Gauteng today with isolated showers and thunder showers. Temperatures are peaking at highs between 26 and 28 degrees.
Leaving Alberton heading towards Soweto, the N12 westbound remains closed off to traffic approaching the Deep Kloof interchange. This is due to a police incident. At this stage, expect more than a 2-hour delay all the way from Komaro Street. As a result, traffic is also heavily backed up on the Golden Highway as well as Rifle Range, and in mainland Pretoria, bumper-to-bumper traffic N1 southbound between Linwood Road and Rigel Avenue.
The top story in Eyewitness News: 5 suspects have been arrested for the murder of 2 women in Porky in the south of Johannesburg.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
What's the plan with this 2,500 odd pupils that haven't been placed? What's going to happen to them?
No, we're placing them in temporary spaces because we're building new schools closer to them so that we can place them. So those new schools will be up latest end of February. But it does not mean when you place them in temporary schools, they are not going to be taught. They'll be taught in those particular schools. But remember, you can't say you are putting learners in a hall and say that is a space. So we have to build them schools. They need classrooms, as an example. So this is what we're doing.
Matume Chilwani, Gauteng Education MEC.
Clements Maniatella.
9 to 12 on 702.
How's it, Doff? How's it, Savvy? Why are you sitting in your driveway all by your lonesome, Doff?
Selling my car, Sav. I don't trust the internet. I like to wheel and deal my own wheels. That's how you make way more, Sav.
Okay, so where's your car now, Doff?
Potential buyers took it for a test drive.
When did they take it for a test drive, Doff?
3 days ago.
Should have sold it to We Buy Cars, Doff.
Yeah, Savvy.
Don't be Doff, be savvy. We Buy Cars, geared for a fast, safe sale, geared for you.
Every day I'm hustling. It's our reality as business owners. And it's good to know that there's someone out there who takes care of the business that makes the business. Gotta love My Way Business Insurance. Saving big on premiums with 24/7 emergency services, plus My Business Assist with marketing, legal, and labor advice services.
Visit myway.co.za or dial 0860 64 64 64 and get a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and standard rates apply. My Way. Live your way.
Brush, stroke, paint, color, protect, and admire. From roof paint to exterior textures and interior silk, Warrior Paints has it all. The product range and stylish colors are amazing. And what's more, Warrior Paints has crushed prices for incredible savings. Enjoy that good old-fashioned personal service you deserve. For price, quality, variety, and service, Warrior Paints is streets ahead. Warrior Paints. Affordable, lasting luxury.
This year, Red Hill School celebrates the achievement of our class of 2025. Our IEB students achieved a record average of 4.3 distinctions per candidate, the strongest results in our school's history. Our international baccalaureate students placed in the top 10% globally, well above the world average. Results like these don't happen by chance. They reflect dedicated students, committed teachers, and families who partner with the school. At Red Hill, excellence is never accidental. It's built together. Visit redhill.co.za for details.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
702 Drive, 21 minutes past 4. We asked you, when is it time? Should there be a cutoff on wishing people Happy New Year or compliments or all the best for 2026, however you phrase it? Paul says that the cutoff date is the 14th of May. No explanation. Thank you, Paul. I will diarize it. Dahlia says, it doesn't actually end. If you see someone in February, you can still wish them a Happy New Year. Boniswa also has considerable stretch to her deadline and says on Good Friday. Okay. If you haven't seen the people before. B says 1st of January at 10 minutes past 12. What else? As long as you've not seen them in the new year. In other words, Tolani, who sent that, says that you are free to wish people the very best of a brand new year. As long as you haven't seen them, you can wish it anytime you like. Debbie says the night of the 1st of January. Hey, a lot of people are strict, as is Busi Siwe, who says everyone should just post it on their social media for those who are not close by, so that within 24 hours we are done. Okay, by the end of the 2nd of January, we should no longer utter those words, we can just greet normally. Mangene is a man after my own thinking, says the end of January. And Flip says after the first week, it's enough. There was a very nice one about the ashes of the bride fire. Let me see if I can find that quickly. Somebody who said, I'll credit them in a moment. Graham, as soon as the ashes of the January 1st braai are cold. So either you've got to keep the fire going or you've got to change your greeting. Thank you for those. Lots of insights. 14th of May. I think I might implement that. 19 minutes now to 4.
EWN Sport.
AFCON semi-finals tonight. Egypt plays Senegal. Morocco clash with Nigeria. Tolakele, before you get into your report about this and the interviews material that you've got for us, predictions, please.
Nigeria and Senegal in the final.
Okay, so then Nigeria would have to beat the hosts and Senegal will have to do one over Egypt. Okay, what have you got?
Well, John, the Super Eagles are the tournament's top scorers with 14 goals and have won all 5 their games so far. But Eric Chell is refusing to get carried away as his side look to make it back-to-back continental finals.
Algeria was the biggest test. Morocco is the biggest test. Every game is the biggest test for this team because the expectation is so big. So we are ready for this game, for all of these games that we play in this tournament. We try to play every game like the last, and we will give everything, and we gave everything.
Walid Rigaru has discussed if there's pressure on him to deliver results, with the Atlas Lions chasing their first title since 1976.
Look, in my country it's like this. You need to accept when you are the coach of national team of Morocco. Every result you have a critics. It's true. I do my best for my country every time. Maybe I do a mistake sometimes because every coach he do a mistake in their life. Me, I'm stay focused with my team is what is important. I fight for my country and the critic every time.
Manchester United have appointed their third coach of the season, with Michael Carrick taking the reins until the end of the campaign. He's added Jonathan Woodgate and Johnny Evans to his backroom staff, while his first game in charge will be the Manchester derby.
It's an unbelievable feeling to come back through the doors really and be part of the club again. You know, it's been part of my life for so long, and it's kind of two sides to it. You know, there's the personal side and the relationships and seeing people, and but quickly focused on doing the job. You know, it's a big responsibility, a massive pleasure and a privilege to be here, but we want to do a good job, and this place deserves that. So massively focused to get started and get going.
Eddie Howe has challenged Newcastle to serve up some magical moments and rekindle their hopes of defending the Carabao Cup. The Magpies lost 2-0 to Manchester City in the first leg of their semi-final at St James's Park last night.
We're still alive, we're still in there fighting. It's very difficult to turn it round, but it's still possible, and football can conjure up some magical moments. Last year we were on the other side of the scoreline. We went to Arsenal, won 2-0, and that game we felt was still very much alive. It was all about the next goal in the tie really, and I think that's going to be the case in this one. If we can get the next goal, we're still very much in it, and I think we saw enough today to say that we can be competitive.
And the Stingers have rebranded to Southern Guards Golf Club ahead of the start of the new Live Golf season. The all-South African roster remains intact for 2026 and features Louis Oosthuizen, Brandon Grace, Dean Burmester and Charles Schwartzel. The season begins in early February, followed by a stop in Steyn City. That's from March 19th until the 22nd. Tolagile Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Yeah, the traffic's starting to get busy, much more like what we used to. At 16 minutes to 4, let's get the very latest from Karabo Chali, Southgate area getting busy.
Yeah, that's leaving Alberton heading towards Soweto. Police have closed off the N12 westbound approaching the Deepkloof interchange due to a crime scene following a shootout. Expect more than a 2-hour delay all the way from Komoro Street. Traffic is literally at a standstill, so avoid that route at all costs. As a result, traffic is also heavily backed up on the Golden Highway heading towards Aldos, as well as Rifle Range through Lynmere. Sunwood Park, there's slow-moving traffic on Rondebold Road between Sunwood Park High and North Boundary Road, and in mainland Pretoria, bumper traffic on the N1 southbound from Linwood Road to Rigel Avenue. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. You're now listening to 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possibility begins here.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
At the start of a new year, and of course with so many successful matriculants on the job market, those who are not going straight into tertiary or have no plans to actually pursue that particular line into their future, the job market, the state of it, what jobs are most in demand? It's a very, very important subject, and we'll be chatting about that in some detail, looking at something called the PNet Job Guide. That's coming up in a few minutes' time. Tolakele, very important topic. At what point do we stop wishing people Happy New Year? At what point do you stop?
On the 3rd of January.
The 3rd of January?
Yes.
But if you are wished best of 2026, as I'm sure both Karabo Charlie and I did you
I just say hello.
No, that's not how I remember it. She rolled her eyes at you.
John, it's a perfect system. I'll give you the first because obviously, like, we're all on a high. Some of us have been drunk. You haven't seen someone since the year before.
Yes.
The second, you are traveling back from wherever you are. The third, done. If you're not at work and you haven't seen this person, you just do a good morning and you move on with your life.
Sure.
After the 3rd of January, I'm finished.
So Conrad says, please be more specific. Which New Year are you referring to? Western, Lunar, Jewish, Islamic, Hindu, Buddhist, Balinese, or Persian? Conrad, I'm going to be absolutely specific. We're referring to the calendar year. I don't even know the names. Is this the Gregorian calendar? I think that's what it's called, the one we apply, the one that starts on the 1st of January. So, yeah, very, very specific question. And my answer is 1st of January was the new year that we are referring to here. 702 Drive, give us a call on 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. Big, well, all the games are big, I suppose, at this stage of the SA20. But the Joburg team, the Joburg Super Kings, are in action in Klerberge against the Sunrisers Eastern Cape. And I wanted to just ask this question. If you've been going to a few games, I've been to 2 this year. At one of them, it was raining. So there was no play. And I can't even remember who the game was meant to be against because we never got to I think it was against Sunrisers Eastern Cape. In fact, it was. It was a Saturday, sat there waiting for the weather to clear, and it didn't clear. Then I went again on Saturday and saw a full 40 overs. Here's the thing I want to ask you about. I was struck by this because I'm a fairly serious sports fan, and sometimes I can be way too intense for my own good. But what I was struck about, I mean, the home team got an absolute pasting. I mean, the bowlers couldn't contain my Cape Town, and the batsmen didn't come anywhere close to the target. But everybody seemed to be having a great time. And they left the stadium. There were smiles everywhere. There was a brass band. People were boogieing their way out through the exits and so on. And I've never really been to sport where that's the case. Yeah, not everyone's got a long face. Nobody is particularly murderous or wanting to bash the person who happens to stand on their toes in the crush or anything like that. I get that. That's one extreme. But the other extreme is people who seemed not to mind about the results at all. So my question to you is this. Do you connect with that if you've been going to SA20? Is it really just the joy and the fun and the good time, and the outcome is important but not essential? And if that is the case, is that a good thing? I have to say I like a bit of chilly with my sport. I don't mean cool weather. I mean a bit of heat, a bit of fierceness, a bit of mumbling and grumbling and moaning when things don't go well. But that's me, and I do get that I'm probably not the SA20 target market. But anyway, my thoughts as we look forward to another game. Hope JSK can get over their injuries and get it over the line tonight. But yeah, do you go there and just feel very differently than you might feel if you were watching the Bulls, for example? 10 minutes to 4.
John Perlman
on 702.
3 to 6 p.m.
Now, I've been taking a look at a very, very interesting study. It's called the PNet Job Guide. And what they do is they look at jobs and then they evaluate them against a number of categories: the availability of the roles, the competition for the places, the skill levels required, and there's another category as well, which we'll go into in more detail. It's called the Job Market Trends Report. Their latest work was done in December, but its currency is obviously very much, it's obviously very current because we're only in January, as we've been discussing. So what did they find? Let's welcome to the show Paul Byrne, who is Head of Insights and Customer Success at PNet. Mr. Byrne, welcome and thanks very much for your time. It's a very interesting study indeed. One of the sentences in your press release caught my eye. I'm going to read it and then get you to comment on it, please. The results show high levels of competition and low availability for jobs that require lower levels of experience and education, especially affecting certain roles in admin, manufacturing, logistics, sales, and finance. What is that all about? Does that say that these jobs are filled quickly, there's fierce competition for them, and there are not very many of them? We're not growing that space.
Hello, John, and good afternoon, and thank you very much for your interest in what we've got to say. And I agree with you 100%. This is such a pertinent subject for this time of the year, where not only have we got the matrics coming, finishing off their school year, but you've got new graduates in the market, and we've got people at this time of the year that seasonally are just looking to have a look at what new opportunities are out there in the market. And that's why actually having a look at the forecast for this next year became so relevant and important for us. But going back to your specific question, yes, I think what we're seeing is a major transformation first in terms of the types of jobs that are available. And there's a lot that's actually sort of playing its part in terms of making these changes. And I think, without going into the detail, because most of this we know is your AI and your technology changes and all those kind of things that are taking away some of the more repetitive type of jobs. So what we're seeing is that those jobs that were typically available for people who were straight out of school and potentially did not have any skills yet or had no formal qualification, even be it a certificate, are finding it more and more difficult to get into the job market right now. There are definitely those roles available to that type of person, so let's not just be completely negative about it. Sure. And typically we are seeing that the call center type roles and sales type jobs are definitely still out there for that kind of category of person. But for the rest of those that you mentioned, very much we're seeing that there's high competition for them, but a low availability of those skills.
So I'm looking at things where there's high availability. I mean, for example, payroll and wages, high availability. What is that about? I mean, are we failing to train people in those jobs? What's going on? Because I would have thought that is a job that you can get into fairly quickly. You also look at the experience required. The experience required is low. The educational level required is medium. Surely we should be filling those posts.
I think what we are seeing, John, is just to sort of put a different perspective on, there's been a growth in demand for that type of job too. And I think that's also quite an important point to make.
Right.
If we just look at the overall growth in what I refer to as the jobs economy over the period that we are reporting, which is November last year compared to the previous November, 2024, we are seeing a 6% increase in the volume of jobs that have been advertised. And for me, that's a particularly sort of good signal, specifically that is following on a growth from the previous month and the previous month before that, which means that the year looked to end on a particularly good note after a lot of uncertainty. So I think we must take that positivity into consideration and say there is growth. Companies are growing. They're creating these opportunities. They're looking at a little bit more of, dare I call it, bureaucracy, where they can get some of the right things right. Potentially some companies might call it the staff work, making sure people get paid. So that's where we're seeing that type of job is there, and there's a high demand for it indeed.
This caught my eye as well, and then I'm going to make sure I ask you what's caught your eye, because you've got a much longer timeline on this than me, Mr. Byrne. But sales, rep sales, consulting and so on, availability of roles are high. Does that reflect that in tough economic times, these jobs maybe, and I could be completely wrong, but may have a significant commission component, and that people, it's just not secure enough? They just don't have the fighting fund from better times to be able to say, okay, I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb on this one and see how I do.
Again, I've got a slightly different opinion on that, John.
Right.
My opinion is that what we're seeing is sales is very definitely one of the job sets that we see into the future of the jobs economy.
Okay.
So it's not a job that's going to go around and go away. And that is part and parcel in line with technology, with education, with the sort of green technology, and even healthcare. And sales remains very high on the list of the top jobs of the future. And I think we've got to remember that what happens is that you need people in businesses that can get out and actually sell the products and the services that companies are creating and generating. And without those people that have got the skill to do that, those companies can't grow. So for me, it's going to remain a skill of the future. So specifically there, you've got the high availability because of there are a lot of people that are available for those positions. There's that high competition. And again, going back to what you were talking about, the different levels of the categorization that we've got, the experience and the educational levels are both low. You can actually get into that type of career relatively easily if you've got the right skill set. And this time, I'm not talking about a formal qualification, but let's call it the gift of the gab. If you can talk to someone to convince them of why your product or service is worthwhile buying, then you're going to grow very quickly in that sales environment. And then going back to your commission point, it is a relevant point because commissions tend to drive salespeople. If they're hungry enough for that sale and they can do it with integrity, in other words, close those sales and offer a really good service that builds their reputation, they're going to get the financial reward for it. And I think we hear so many companies say, when you're in sales, you can write your own paycheck.
So just a final one then. I mean, perhaps on a longer timeline than just the December report we've been discussing, but what for you are the key things that we ought to either be looking out from in the months past or more crucially in the months to come? What for you are the headlines?
John, I think that what we're seeing is that, like the rest of the world, we're rapidly becoming a skill-based country where companies are looking to employ people for the skills that they've got, not necessarily just the education. So I think the big highlighting point for me is that anyone who's in the job market today, whether they're coming into it for the first time or they are mid-career or even close to the end of their career, really need to be addressing their ongoing learning, specifically with the changes that we're seeing in the workplace around AI and other technology advancements that we're seeing. It is critically important that people just stay ahead of those trends. That is then supported by the type of roles that we're seeing that are in top demand, and there's a lot of competition for those jobs. And specifically when we're looking at sort of the IT industry, we're seeing your systems and network administrators, your software developers, your technical and business architects. Those are the type of people that we need a lot more of, and those are standing out. Let me also add that within engineering, we're seeing that the top skills for engineering, and again, I go back to the green economy, civil and structural engineers are in high demand at the moment, consulting engineers and quantity surveyors. In the finance space, we're seeing cost and management consultants. I've been through IT, but very importantly, medical and health too. We need nurses, we need pharmacists, and we need both those that are qualified with degrees and diplomas in the workforce.
Thank you so much. Paul Byrne joining us from PNet. He's head of insights and customer success at PNet, and you can find them online. Take a look at what their latest look at the job market and where jobs are available, where they're fiercely contested for. It's interesting stuff. And if you've got an insight of your own to add, please do. 072 702 1702.
Running a business can feel like a solo mission. I mean, you've got the hustle. If only your office Wi-Fi was your employee of the month. Turn on your success with Telkom Business, the partner that always shows up. Get a reliable 25 by 25 megabytes per second connection with Stream Connect Fiber for only 489 rands per month.
This summer, your business deserves the best. Visit telkom.co.za/business for deals that connect your business. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. It's easy to apply. No medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS funeral to 31586. That's 31586. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Need a seat? Try 7 or 5. It's your call. Want a sunroof? Make it a panoramic. Gotta have power? How does award-winning 138 kilowatt sound? The Chang'an CS75 Pro is big enough for the kids, smart enough for your playlist, and stylish enough for your Friday night too. Why settle when you can have it all without compromise? The Chang'an CS75 Pro. Drive tomorrow's SUV today. Visit chang'anmotors.co.za for more.
Chang'an, driven to evolve.
Driving the conversation on 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Powered by Telkom Business. Possibility begins here. This is EWN.
The N12 near Nasrec closed after a shootout, and Limpopo government mobilizes full disaster response amid devastating floods. Good afternoon, I'm Maki Molapo. We begin with news just in. The N12 near Nasrec in the south of Johannesburg has been closed off to traffic following a shootout between police and alleged armed robbers. Police are currently combing through the active crime scene, and motorists are advised to steer clear of the area. Details surrounding the incident remain sketchy at this stage, with some reports of an unconfirmed number of fatalities. GMPD spokesperson Xolani Fihla has encouraged motorists already in the area to exercise caution.
All lanes on the N12 West are currently blocked off to traffic due to the crime scene. Law enforcement and emergency services are on scene, and the closure is causing heavy delays in the area as motorists avoid that scene. Motorists are advised to exercise caution and to avoid the N12 West traveling towards Uncle Charlie's and Dipkloof interchange, and rather use alternative routes such as Xavier Street off the N12.
We move to the courts, where details including threats have come to light in a protection order which Warwick Stock, popularly known as DJ Warriors, had applied for against 6 individuals. This has emerged during the bail hearing of Victor Majola in the Johannesburg Magistrates Court this afternoon. Majola, a taxi boss from Soweto, has been charged with conspiracy to commit murder and the premeditated murder of Stock. Oren Singh has more.
4 days before he was killed in Joburg CBD, Warwick Stock made an application against 6 people who lived in the building Zambezi House that the media personality was contracted to safeguard. Contents of the protection order application were read out in the Joburg Magistrates Court this afternoon during the bail hearing of Victor Majola, arrested for the murder of Stock. According to the application, Stock and security personnel attached to his company Imperium Ops received verbal threats from 6 tenants of Zambezi House. The threats were made against Stock and his 2 teams on separate occasions in November last year. The first person listed on the protection order application is Hlengiwe Buthelezi, Majola's girlfriend. Buthelezi was allegedly part of an informal committee at Zambezi House that were charging tenants rental and unlawfully pocketing the money, with the rightful landlord incurring losses of more than 200,000 rand. Arun Singh, Eyewitness News.
In Limpopo, the provincial government says it has mobilized a full disaster response as flooding continues to disrupt communities across parts of Limpopo. Authorities say 8 personnel, emergency medical service divers and relief supplies have been sent to the hardest hit areas in what has been described as an all-hands-on-deck operation. But on the ground, some residents say they are yet to see that help. Mongezi Gogo is in Limpopo.
Provincial Cocta MEC Basikopo Makamu says multiple departments are working around the clock with disaster management teams activated to respond to flood-related incidents and potential emergencies. However, in several flood-hit communities, residents paint a different picture. They say they've been forced to clear mud and debris themselves using shovels and hands, trying to open blocked drainage channels.
The institutional services are struggling to assist the people who are in need because the roads and the infrastructure is damaged.
Some residents claim no personnel have arrived and the only assistance received was a contact number to call in the event of a drowning, with no support to prevent such situations, adding that there was very little warning before floodwaters rose, leaving communities scrambling to respond. Mongezi Gogo, Eyewitness News, Giyani.
In Gauteng, the city of Johannesburg has launched an investigation into the death of a 10-year-old who drowned at a public school. The incident happened on Sunday in Dobsonville in Soweto. Council Speaker Margaret Arnolds visited the victim's family today to offer condolences and gain clarity on the tragedy. Jabulile Mbata has the story.
Preliminary information suggests the father of the victim had accompanied his son to the local pool and watched him as he swam. Council Speaker Margaret Arnolds says officials from the pool have assured there were lifeguards during the incident. She says the family is struggling to deal with the death of their child and have not indicated whether they will open a case with the police.
Dad is out of it and he really sometimes asks, did this really happen to my child? Mom does not even talk. So I wouldn't want to say, yes, family is confirmed, 1, 2, 3.
Arnolds says the Department of Sports, Art and Culture in the city also needs to indicate what steps will be taken moving forward. Jabulile Mbata, Eyewitness News.
And the Democratic Alliance wants International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola to report Iran to the United Nations Human Rights Council over the deaths of more than 2,000 people since a crackdown on anti-government protesters began. In a letter to Lamola, the DA says Iran should be reported for flagrant human rights abuses in its attempts to suppress the current uprising. The party is once again clashing with the ANC on government's foreign policy after it took issue with South Africa calling for action against the United States over its recent invasion of Venezuela, but did not respond in the same way to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The presence of Iranian naval vessels off Cape Town's coast for military exercises has again drawn international attention to South African allies as President Donald Trump threatens increased trade tariffs for countries who do business with Iran. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
The Democratic Alliance says the actions by Iran to quell demonstrations against its government should call into question South Africa's relationship with that country. Iran is a recently added member to the BRICS group of nations. Drawing parallels between the Iranian protests and the anti-apartheid uprisings, DAMP and International Relations spokesperson Ryan Smith says the ANC is facing a moral test of whether to stand with the people of Iran or those who suppress them.
As a member of the Government of National Unity, we will not tolerate South Africa turning a blind eye to brutal authoritarian regimes at the ANC's behest, and we certainly will not tolerate South Africa's silence in the wake of their violent assaults on innocent civilians.
Smith says given South Africa's history, it has a duty to use its voice at all international platforms to speak out against any regime that stifles freedom at the expense of human life. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
Gold's trading at $4,636.99 an ounce. The rand's at 16.39 to the dollar, at 22.05 to the pound, at 19.10 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $66.01 a barrel.
Leaving Alberton heading towards Soweto, police have closed off the N12 westbound approaching the Diepkloof interchange. This is due to a crime scene following a shootout. Expect more than a 2-hour delay all the way from Komoro Street. As a result, traffic also heavily backed up on the Golden Highway heading towards Aldo's, as well as on Rifle Range. This is driving through Lynmere.
In your sports, Nigeria against host Morocco headlines the semi-final clashes at AFCON tonight. Michael Carrick urges Manchester United to pull together as he takes interim head coach role. And South Africa's Live Golf team rebrands to Southern Guards ahead of Africa debut.
A look at your weather. Cloudy skies in store for Gauteng with isolated showers and thunder showers expected tomorrow. Joburg will drop to overnight lows of 14 degrees and peak at highs of 27 degrees. Pretoria is at 16 and 30. Vereeniging's at 15 and reaching highs of 29 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. The N12 near Nasrec in the south of Johannesburg has been closed off to traffic following a shootout between police and alleged armed robbers. Motorists are encouraged to exercise caution.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
7:02.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
on 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
7:02 Drive, it's 4:10. Good to have you with us on the show. Coming up in the next hour or so, in a moment, we'll talk to Ian Cameron, chair of the Portfolio Committee on Police. Somewhat startling story coming out in response to a question asked of Acting Police Minister Feroz Kachalia. And the question was in regard to the liabilities that police are currently facing on allegations, claims made against them for unlawful arrests and other breaches of what they're supposed to be doing. And the liability is massive, 56.7 billion rand. Now, if you look at the payouts that have been made, if you look, for example, in the previous financial year, 620 million was paid out. So there's no real chance that all 56.7 billion or anything close to it is going to be due anytime soon. Nevertheless, SAPS is first of all shipping money, and secondly is creating these liabilities through its conduct. Not entirely, because you could argue that people who are on the wrong side of the law may well do this to create a diversion and try and put the blame for their conduct on somebody else. But still, it's a problem. Ian Cameron joins us to take a closer look. We'll talk to Oren Singh, who is in court watching the bail hearing involving Victor Majola, who stands charged with involvement in the murder of Warwick Stock. DJ Waras, Oren with the latest in about 15 minutes' time. And then we return a little bit later in this hour to a story that really was a dominant one last year. Remember all those children who were dying because they'd been poisoned, not because they had food poisoning, but because they were in contact with food that had itself been in contact with poison. A product called Turbufos was implicated and highlighted in the conversations. Now Agriculture Minister John Steenhuisen is putting forward a proposal for it to be banned by the end of February. Is that going to work? We'll talk to Dr. Gerard Verdoorn, who's director of the Griffin Poison Information Centre, also involved with the organization CropLife South Africa. That conversation at about 10 to 5. It's an important one. Stay with us for that. 12 minutes past 4.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
So we've been asking you about that first day of school and your stories. Please do give us a call on 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. We asked you as well, when is the time to finally stop saying wishing people Happy New Year and compliments of the season, whatever it might be. Bongi says March for Pedis. Now, we had this conversation a little bit earlier, Karabo Charlie, and unless Bongi is somebody that you know who contacted you privately. What is that all about?
I have no idea.
No idea. Okay.
But then Pedis are usually picked on for dragging this Happy New Year thing until forever and ever. So yeah, unfortunately we.
So is it a sore point, or is it just a light?
It's just a light little joke for us, Pedis, until winter.
Okay, all right. Well, a couple of others. Pasega says before the 3rd of January, Happy New Year wishes must stop, and Merry Christmas should be reserved for the 25th of December alone. You can't be saying Merry Christmas on the 20th. I would agree with that. I don't think that. Does that happen? I guess it must. Because Paseka is telling us she wants it to stop. 702 Drive also asked a question about SA20 cricket. If you missed the point I made, and I'll keep it brief. I was at the game on Saturday. The home team, which I suppose is my team, Joburg Super Kings, JSK, got absolutely thumped. But everyone around me seemed to be having a great time. There were none of the long faces and the gloominess and the groans when players failed to do what they should. All the things I associate with, the descending of gloom when your team is not doing very well, and in this case, not doing very well at all. But everyone seemed to be having a great time. Is that a good thing, or do you need a little bit of grumpiness for it really to be considered sport? I think you're getting an idea of where I stand on these matters. But, I mean, the event was fabulous, actually. And, so many people there having a great time. And what really struck me is just how much commerce this generates. If you just take the food stalls that circle the the bull ring at the Wanderers. Some of them are well-known brands. Steers, for example, was close to where I was sitting. But then there are clearly small and independent operators who see this as an opportunity to make money. And of course, if you sell beer, you're going to make some cash as well. But yeah, give me your thoughts. SA20, there's another game tonight. JSK up against the Eastern Sunrisers, Eastern Cape, and Tolakele is with us a little later with an update, I think, on that game and certainly the other big sports stories as well. AFCON semi-finals tonight. If you have a particular affiliation with Senegal or Egypt or Nigeria or Morocco, you may want to call us, give us your predictions, tell us what you hope might happen, and your thoughts perhaps on what kind of AFCON this has been. So a lot of things to chat about. It's 4:15.
EWN Traffic.
EWN Traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. It's nearly time to head back to university, so why hit the road when you can fly? Book at flysaa.com. Do it now. Karabo Charlie with the latest.
Well, at this stage, if you are leaving Alberton heading towards Soweto, police have closed off the N12 westbound approaching the Deep Kloof interchange. This is due to a crime scene following a shootout. Expect more than a 2-hour delay now all the way from the R59 Reading interchange. So as a result, the traffic is also heavily backed up. This is on the Golden Highway and through Devland heading towards Eldorado Park, as well as Rifle Range. That's driving through Lynmeyer area. Alberton also traffic sluggish heading towards Vereeniging. This is on the R59 southbound between Swartkopies and Kliprefir Drive. Sunwood Park, Boksburg, slow moving traffic on Rondebolt Road between Sunwood Park High School and North Boundary Road. In Bursley, Kempton Park, there's traffic pressure. This is on Modderfontein Road between Pretoria Road and Mooifontein Road. Also in Menlyn, Pretoria, bumper-to-bumper traffic still on the N1 southbound from Linwood Road to Rigel Avenue. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Getting ready for university, let South African Airways take the pressure out of your travel. Enjoy all-inclusive one-way fares from Johannesburg to Durban from 690 Rand, from Joburg to Gqeberha from 655, and from Johannesburg to Cape Town from 1,144. Plus, pack more of what you need with 2 check bags instead of 1. On sale until 12 February. Travel by 12 Feb 2026. Book now at flysaa.com. T's and C's apply.
Stay with 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possibility begins here.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Well, an important story on the Business Live site, Tara Ruiz reporting that in Parliament, in response to a question posed by EFF MP Lorato Tito, Acting Police Minister Feroz Kachalia said that as of the end of September 2025, the South African police were liable for claims of up to 56.7 billion rand. They are facing claims of, almost 49,000 unlawful arrests and detention claims. It's an alarming statistic. It doesn't mean, of course, that huge amounts of money close to that would be paid out, but substantial sums get paid out every year. For example, the first 6 months of the 2025-26 financial year, almost 302 million rand was paid out in settling these kinds of claims. So what are the implications and what does this tell us about the way the police go about their business? Ian Cameron, DA Member of Parliament, is also Chair of the Portfolio Committee on Police and joins us now. Mr. Cameron, welcome and thanks very much for your time. When one has a huge number, I think it's always useful to try and disaggregate it in some sort of way. Presumably, some of these are valid and reflect the police not doing what they should and not doing what they do in the right kind of way. But presumably in the mix, would there be a reasonable proportion of people who are themselves in trouble with the law and are just trying to create a diversion of some kind?
Absolutely, thank you. I think it's important to first of all say that these are claims that haven't necessarily been instituted yet. So there is a chance that some of them may not be paid out. Reason being is many haven't been settled yet. It might be depending on a court appearance or a court process of sorts. So there's a whole list of things that need to happen. I think to understand the scale, it's really important, and to give more context to the numbers that you mentioned, is that this number of almost 57 billion rand and the almost 50,000 unlawful arrests that you mentioned is close to 42% of the police's total budget.
Goodness.
Which is an astronomical amount. I mean, the police's budget consists of just over 130 billion rand. So, this speaks of a whole list of irregularities, if I can call it that, that's led us to this point.
Yeah, what are some of those irregularities? I mean, is it, will you tell me? Let me not list possibilities. Let's get your thoughts.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, things like we've mentioned now, wrongful arrest or detention-related matters plays a big role. But I think broadly speaking, it exposes a bigger issue regarding general accountability and discipline in the South African Police Service. The new or amended South African Police Service Act that we hopefully will have before Parliament in 2026 is actually has numbed the police to take action in a certain way. I mean, today I just walked out of the ad hoc committee regarding the claims made by General Mkhwanazi last year. We're listening to the previous or one of the former acting national commissioners, General Khomotso Phahlane, and just to hear the way that his disciplinary matters were attended to, whether you agree with him or not, certainly doesn't give one a feeling of confidence.
Yes.
And if that's the way it is on such a senior level, obviously it's likely much worse on ground level.
I wonder if we can connect, Mr. Cameron, this number and perhaps some of the other numbers that reflect incidences of crime, but secondly, resolution of crime through the criminal justice system. Would it be fair to conclude that if there are all these unlawful arrests, that the police not only are creating financial liability for the South African public and, of course, the South African Police Service, but they're actually wasting time and effort arresting the wrong people?
Well, it's that, but it's also a lack of a broader integrated strategy. Let me give you an example. If, for example, the National Prosecuting Authority and SAPS have different end goals. So
right.
The NPA wants to empty the court roll, while SAPS wants to fill the court roll. And while SAPS have operations like you would have heard of Operation Chanela, where they arrest thousands upon thousands of additional members, one must ask how many convictions actually come out of that. So until we sort out the streamlining of that, we're constantly going to have this clash where we're just arresting for the sake of it, chasing numbers, but we're not actually seeing some kind of a positive result come out of it.
Thank you so much, dear Member of Parliament Ian Cameron, who also heads Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Police. Those statistics are very, very interesting. And by the way, if you work in the South African Police Service, maybe you've also been someone who's been arrested unlawfully and you've pursued the matter. You may have a story to tell there as well. I'd like to get some grit and nuts and bolts as to what these numbers actually mean on the ground, but some very interesting connections made there by Ian Cameron. Your thoughts, please, on 072 702 1702 and 011 883 0702. 24 minutes past 4.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Right, let's focus our attention then on a court case that has been covered extensively in the news. This in regard to the killing of Warwick DJ Warris Stock, the bail application for the man who stands accused not of actually committing the murder, but being involved in orchestrating and organizing it. Victor Majola, his bail hearing is revealing all sorts of really interesting things. To talk about that, Oren Singh, our EWN colleague, who's been on the story from the beginning. Oren, a very good afternoon to you. What have we learned today? I mean, each day seems to throw up a lot of stuff significant to the case once it finally gets underway.
Well, John, I think the most crucial things that have come out today is more details about that protection order application that Warwick Stock had made just 4 days prior to his murder against 6 individuals or tenants from this building in the Joburg CBD called Zambezi House that he was basically contracted to audit and safeguard. And at the top of that list, the magistrate read out the names of the people that this application was made against, this protection order application. It wasn't granted, just by the way, but the hearing for it being granted was going to take place in February this year. At the top of the list was the name of Hlengiwe Buthelezi. Hlengiwe Buthelezi is the girlfriend of Victor Majola, who's the man currently in the dock and is being charged with premeditated murder and conspiracy to commit murder, the man being said to have orchestrated the murder of Warwick Stock. Another interesting thing that just came out a few minutes ago, John, is that the magistrate has ordered that the video footage, the CCTV footage of the murder and the moments leading up to the murder on December 16th be brought to court and played before court. They had a brief stand down of the matter for the investigating officer to try and see if he can get that footage.
Right.
And he went to a butchery which is next to the building Zambezi House to speak to the butchery owner, and he said he's already handed it to police. It's already in Pretoria for forensic analysis. So they were hoping to have that footage played in court on Monday. I don't think that's going to happen. It's probably going to take a little bit more time before that footage is brought to court and played. But the main objective with having that footage is to see whether Victor Majola is in the footage and is said to be loitering around the area with the gunman, the unidentified gunman, about 45 minutes before the shooting actually occurs.
Sure. Well, this thing is moving, and often with bail applications, it can be quite dry. Do you own property? What are your obligations? How many passports do you have, and so on? But I wouldn't say this is necessarily unusual, but it isn't all that common. So, from my relatively distant view of court matters, for so much of what might be actually argued and litigated in the court process itself to be coming out in the bail application. Anyway, it's very much in the spotlight, and Oren Singh is right on top of it. He's back whenever he hears anything new. 27 minutes past 4.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. It's nearly time to head back to university, so why hit the road when you can fly? Book at flysaa.com. Do it now. Karabo Charlie, the N12 in the southern part of the Joburg metro area. Problems there.
Yeah, that's if you're leaving Alberton heading towards Soweto. Police have closed off the N12 westbound approaching the Deep Kloof interchange. This is due to a crime scene following a shootout. At this stage, you can expect more than a 2-hour delay all the way from the R59 Reading interchange. As a result, traffic is also heavily backed up. This is on the Golden Highway and Main Road, driving through Southgate heading towards Eldorado Park. Also bumper-to-bumper traffic on the M1 southbound. That's driving through Ridgeway. Alberton, traffic a bit sluggish. R59 southbound between Swartkopies and Kliprefir Drive. While in Sunwood Park, Boksburg, there's also slow-moving traffic on Rondebold Road between Sunwood Park High School and North Boundary Road. And finally in Minland, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic on the N1 southbound between Linwood Road and Rigel Avenue. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Matric class of 2025, ready to spread your wings? South African Airways makes your uni journey easier with all-inclusive one-way fares from Joburg to Durban from 690 Rand, from Johannesburg to Gqeberha from 655, and from Johannesburg to Cape Town from 1,144. Plus, pack more of what you need with 2 checked bags instead of 1. On sale until 12 February. Travel by 12 Feb 2026. Book now at flysaa.com. T's and C's apply.
You're with John Perlman
on 702. EWN Business.
Stephen Curtis, a very good afternoon to you. How have the markets been?
Afternoon to you, John. Just keeping a very close eye on the oil price. You may remember when the Venezuelan president was kidnapped, oil was around $61. It's at $66.19 now. The main reason, I think, is because of what's happening in Iran, and perhaps also the threat by Iran that if the U.S. intervenes in any way in those protests against the government there, they will strike U.S. soldiers in their neighbors, so in those military bases. Bear in mind the Strait of Hormuz as well, which Iran would have the military capability, as I understand it, to block. That would choke 20% of world oil supplies. The JSE All Share flat at the moment, down 0.01%, 120,947 points. Financials down 0.86, industrials down 0.8, resources up again 1.72. Gold and platinum both very strong today, as you would expect. Tiger Brands is down 11%, and then some of the other consumer shares down quite strongly too. Pepkor down 5.5%. Growth Point, they're in the property business, they're down 3%. Pick and Pay down 2.5%. And MTN also down 2.7% on the day so far. Alpha Mining, they're up 6.18%. They've had a strong week. And then some of the other mining shares, as you can imagine, Implat's up 3.5%. Glencore up 3.37%. There's the Rio Tinto deal to think about as well, of course. And then some of the other gold and platinum miners doing nicely. AB InBev up 2.642%. Northern Platinum up 3.25%, John. They reported they increased their platinum group metal production by 3.1% in the first half of the current financial year compared to the same period last year. The main contributor was the big increase in their own operations at Eland. It was also able to increase its chrome concentrate production by nearly 15%. That should mean all of this that is able to take advantage of the big jumps we're seeing in the platinum price. Brent crude, $66.19 now. Gold, $4,630.62, I should say. Platinum, $2,394.14. The rand to the dollar, roughly where it was yesterday, 16.40 to the euro, 19.11 to the British pound, 22.05. Stephen Curtis, EWN Business.
Thanks, Stephen. Back with us in about 55 minutes' time. It's 28 minutes to 5 now. Let's get the latest eyewitness news with Maki Mulapo. That shootout on the N12. I believe you've got some information. Good afternoon.
That's right, John. Thank you. Good afternoon. We begin with this developing story from the south of Joburg, where police have now confirmed that 3 people have died following a shootout between officers and suspected robbers. The incident occurred earlier on the N12 near Nasrec, and the area has since been closed off to traffic. Police are currently on scene, and motorists are advised to steer clear of the area. GMPD spokesperson Xolani Fihla.
All lanes on the N12 West are currently blocked off to traffic due to the crime scene. Law enforcement and emergency services are on scene, and the closure is causing heavy delays in the area as motorists avoid that scene. Motorists are advised to exercise caution and to avoid the N12 West traveling towards Uncle Charlie's and Dipcliffe interchange, and rather use alternative routes such as Xavier Street off the N12.
In KwaZulu-Natal, despite a withdrawal by the National Freedom Party from the provincial coalition government, the Inkatha Freedom Party says the GPU remains intact. While the IFP insists there's been no formal withdrawal by the NFP, last week the party's executive committee announced it was pulling out of the arrangement. It later instructed its provincial chairperson, who's also MEC for Social Development, Mbali Shinga, to resign from her post. Shinga is yet to vacate office and has since faced an internal disciplinary process. Nhlanhla Mabaso has more.
The IFP is the biggest beneficiary of the Government of Provincial Unity, with 5 members serving in the Provincial Executive Council. This includes the Premier and 4 MECs. And with the recent developments which threatened the stability of the provincial government, the IFP says it is still committed to seeing the partnership with the ANC, DA and NFP work out. Party National Chairperson Blessed Gwala.
At a time when communities are confronted by unemployment, failing infrastructure, crime and deteriorating public services, political instability is a luxury of our province simply cannot afford.
The party says all members of the executive from the various parties are still continuing with their departmental duties. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, Durban.
The DA in Johannesburg is strongly considering having Helen Zille sworn in as one of its PR councillors in Johannesburg municipality. The 74-year-old politician is the DA's mayoral candidate for Johannesburg at the upcoming local government elections. While Zille's political career has largely been focused in the Western Cape, she was born and raised in Johannesburg. Tabiso Goba has more.
With the local government elections expected to take place this year, Helen Zille is set to ramp up her mayoral campaign. Last year, she told the media she was in the process of moving from Cape Town to Johannesburg. The DA's Johannesburg chairperson, Wendy Alexander, says the party is in the process of updating its councillor list.
And then should a vacancy arise, we would then discuss what would be strategically advantageous, because there are pros and cons to all. You know, Helen being part of the council, not being part of the council. Like I said, we haven't made a decision either way, but we are making sure that we have options available to us.
The DA is hoping there will be a vacancy soon on its PR list, as one of its PR councillors, Bia Campbell-Klutz, will be contesting in Ward 102's by-election. Tabiso Goba, Eyewitness News.
In Russia, 2 hospital staff have been arrested after 9 babies died this month in the intensive care of a Siberian hospital. The chief physician and acting head of the unit are charged with negligence and causing death through negligence. The case has shown a spotlight on chronic staff shortages and funding gaps in the country.
Legal practice for a 2013 Edgar's death. And when he said that the data was long prescribed and therefore the listing should be removed, the phone went dead in his ear.
Wow!
So I'll be taking up that case to ensure that listing for the very old debt is removed.
But when someone does that, automatically they know that they're in the wrong and they shouldn't even have tried.
Exactly. So there's a lot, and the banking ombuds put out warnings about this. There are prescribed debts that shouldn't be there. And the NCR guidelines, that document that went out last month, made for very interesting reading, because I don't think consumers realize the extent of the legal rights that they have in this regard when contesting things that shouldn't be on their credit record.
What sort of rights do we have to our credit record in the first place?
Okay, I'm going to try and simplify a very long, wordy, technical document. So you may submit supporting documents when you dispute a listing, but this is the interesting part. The primary duty to locate credible evidence rests with the credit bureaus and data suppliers. In other words, they must prove to you that listing deserves to be there on your record. And if they can't, they have to remove it. So the advice says if a person has challenged the accuracy of information proposed to be reported to your credit bureau, that evidence must be given to that person, or if they can't find any evidence, it must be removed within 30 days of the dispute. Evidence must consist of objective, factual records and not opinions or unsupported assertions. Bare confirmations, I'm reading from the document now, i.e. the listing is correct, do not meet the standard. So that tells me, Stephen, that there's quite a lot of that go away kind of stuff going on where the bureaus and the companies supplying them with the information are required to prove that listing is valid, and if they can't, it must be removed. So just to let people know that they have a lot of rights when in this regard. And this is a really interesting thing. This was news to me. Credit bureaus must, on receipt of a dispute, so that's you or me saying, hey, that's not a valid blacklisting, they must temporarily mask the disputed information during the investigation, which is a 30-day process. So in other words, the adverse listing you've disputed can't be visible to any credit providers during that 30-day dispute process. Yeah.
Sure. I didn't know that. That's very interesting. Okay, so checking your credit record, you need to check it quite often. How do you even do it to make sure that you don't sort of get a nasty shock?
Yeah, okay. So most people do find out something that's not great on their record when they apply for a cell-phone contract or home loan or whatever the case may be. And that's not a great way to find out that there's something not right with your record. So legally you're entitled to a free check once a year, but there are 4 credit bureaus, so you can get a free check technically every 3 months. Interestingly, by law, they don't, that's the National Credit Act, they don't have to give you your score. We really do want to see the score. They only have to give you access to your report. So
that's weird, but anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So last I knew TransUnion doesn't give you your score, but I think Experian does. But yeah, you should definitely be on top of it. Don't let some credit provider tell you that there's an issue. You need to know what's going on there.
And best is to improve, to increase your credit score. I mean, this is something that lots of people are going to want to know.
Exactly. So the main one is to pay every bill, at least the minimum amount due, but if you can do more than that, that's going to increase your score, because people don't want to, the credit providers don't want to see that you can only really manage to scrape by that minimum amount. So pay a little bit more. And a very powerful hack that a lot of people don't know is to improve your so-called credit utilization ratio. So avoid spending more than 40% of your available credit limit. And a lot of people are listening thinking, what? They're living close to the edge. Living close to the edge of your limit, maxing out your credit cards, as we put it colloquially, is really not a good way to. It's going to be to the detriment of your credit score. So if and this is a big if you have strong financial discipline, apply. These credit providers are always trying to invite us to increase our credit limit, right? So if you have strong financial discipline, apply for a higher credit limit without increasing your spending. So that way you can keep it under 40%. That lowers your ratio, signaling to the banks that you've got great self-control and improving your score for everyone that wants to look at it. But again, only use this tactic if you can avoid the temptation to regard that credit limit as a spending target, which many people do. So under 40%, you're going to do your score a huge favor.
Sure, that does make sense. Wendy Nola, thank you so much. Really do appreciate it. Your consumer ninja, Wendy Nola, on The Money Show tonight.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you, Wendy. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, cheers.
Thanks, ciao. Bye.
looks in all directions before moving. At Plus 94 Research, we understand the importance of careful consideration. By analyzing comprehensive data and diverse perspectives, we help you make informed decisions that stand the test of time. Don't leap without looking. Move forward with insight and precision. Plus 94 Research, the science of decision making.
There's towing a boat to the lagoon for the weekend. And then there's towing a boat with your Ford Everest. With tow haul mode and Pro Trader backup assist, you're not just a driver, you're making it look easy. That's peak living in the Ford Everest, starting from only $837,500. Includes our Ford Family Promise with our Ford Courtesy Fleet, keeping your adventure moving. Visit your nearest Ford dealer today. T&Cs apply.
This is EWN.
Airlink suspends all flights to and from Limpopo and 1 arrest and 3 fatalities following end-of shootout. Good afternoon, I'm Mikey Molapo. We begin with the latest coming out of Limpopo, where flights to and from Hoedspruit have been suspended as severe flooding continues to disrupt movement and isolate communities in the area. The suspension has left passengers stranded and further highlighted the broader impact of relentless rains across the province. For communities already cut off by flooded roads, the grounding of flights has added to a growing sense of uncertainty. Mungezi Koko has more from Limpopo.
Airlink says the decision to halt operations was taken after flooding left roads impassable and restricted access to Hoedspruit Airport, which serves surrounding communities as well as the Kruger National Park and nearby lodges. The airline says flights will only resume once authorities declare it safe for operations to continue. Meanwhile, on the ground, residents speak of sleepless nights watching water creep closer to their homes, with some saying the feeling reminds them of the devastating floods of 2002.
Most of the house here, there is a lot of water. That's why we see people, they're coming out, they're trying to take this water. There is a lot of water.
This is the second time we're having this flood. We had the first flood in 2000. Now is the second one. We need to plan ahead.
The developments come as flooding continues to affect daily life across parts of Limpopo. Mongezi Koko, Eyewitness News, Giani.
In another developing story from the south of Johannesburg, 1 person has been arrested after 3 others were killed during a shootout with police and suspected robbers. The incident occurred earlier after police received a call about a courier vehicle being robbed in Thokoza, east of the city. The suspects were intercepted after a high-speed chase as they reached the N12 near the Soweto off-ramp. It's understood they opened fire on the police and a shootout ensued. Gauteng police spokesperson Dimakatso Nebului says all lanes remain closed near the scene as police and emergency services remain on site.
The Provincial Commissioner of the Police in Gauteng, Lieutenant General Tommy Mtombeni, has applauded the team comprising of National Counterintelligence, Gauteng Tactical Response Team, Gauteng Traffic Police Air Wing and private security companies for their collaborative effort that always ensures that criminals are put behind bars.
After missing the first day of the 2026 academic year, parents and pupils without school placements have gone back home with hopes that the Gauteng Education Department will find them schools. Parents have queued anxiously today at district offices across the province. Many claim they were failed by the province's online application system, saying they experienced glitches despite applying as early as August last year. Khomotso Modise has more.
Many of the parents who spent the morning in a queue at the Gauteng Education Department's Morningside district office walked out looking disgruntled and disappointed after being asked by officials to give them 10 days to find them schools. But while many have blamed the online application system, some have admitted to applying late or submitting the incorrect documents in their applications. This woman says she applied on time and correctly, but her daughter is still without a school.
I feel like a useless mother to my daughter because all other children are in school and I've left her sleeping at home. Now I must go back and give her this poor feedback. I feel like I'm disappointing her.
If the department fails to allocate schools to all pupils, those who've not been placed will be temporarily sent to a school before being allocated a satellite mobile school that officials say should be ready by the end of this month. Khomotso Modise, Eyewitness News in Morningside.
Meanwhile, controversial group Operation Dudula has staged a sit-in at the Gauteng Department of Education offices under heavy police presence today, demanding the placement of more than 500 learners still without schools. The group says the online system often places children far from their homes, creating financial and safety concerns for parents. The group's interim national organizer, Freeman Bengu, claims after their arrival, 4 learners from their list were immediately placed, with officials promising to process the full list. Bengu says parents have the right to choose which school their children attend.
You know, it's easy for a politician, Boli Sufi and all of them, because they can afford schooling for their kids anywhere they want to. Their kids are in private school. The system must have that opportunity, that facility. It's their right to choose where their kids go to. And, you know, it's unfortunate that it came from a politician, but then it's expected. So, yeah.
And Agriculture Minister John Steenhuisen says while the mass vaccination of livestock is not a silver bullet to stamping out the foot and mouth disease, he believes it's the best course of action to save the red meat industry. He's dismissed as false criticism that the department has not been proactive enough to rescue farmers who've suffered millions of rands in losses. Steenhuisen says he plans to introduce legislative amendments to clamp down on the indiscriminate movement of infected animals without consequences. Lindsay Dentlinger has the details.
Launching a 10-year strategy to make South Africa foot and mouth disease free, Minister John Steenhuisen says the department has been working well with the private sector to devise a plan to mitigate the losses.
We hear you, we see you, we understand what you're going through, and we're doing everything that we can to fast-track streams of vaccines into the country.
With at least 6 million vaccine doses expected to be imported over the next 3 months, coupled with local vaccine production, the department is targeting 100% coverage in feedlots and dairies, 90% in commercial herds, and 80% on communal farms within the next year.
It's going to open up a whole new era and horizon for the South African red meat sector particularly. Can you imagine having access to the European market, for instance?
Steenhuisen says he will table a memorandum to Cabinet soon to declare FMD a state of disaster to enable the assistance of law enforcement in controlling the movement of animals. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
Gold's trading at $4,604.13 an ounce. The rand's at 16.39 to the dollar, at 22.04 to the pound, at 19.10 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $66.15 a barrel.
Leaving Alberton, heading towards Soweto, police have closed off the N12 West approaching the Deep Kloof interchange due to a crime scene. This is following a shootout. At this stage, expect more than a 2-hour delay all the way from the N3 Inlands interchange. As a result, traffic is also heavily backed up on the Golden Highway and Main Road. This is traveling through the Southgate area. Also bumper-to-bumper traffic on the M1 South. This is driving through Ridgeway.
In your sport, old friends reunited as Mohamed Salah's Egypt takes on Sadio Mane's Senegal in AFCON semi-final. Arsenal on a mission to oust Chelsea from the Carabao Cup. And Sebastian Offner's premature celebration costs him Australian Open spot.
Look at your weather. Cloudy skies in store for Gauteng tomorrow with isolated showers and thunder showers expected. Joburg will drop to overnight lows of 14 degrees and peak at highs of 27. Pretoria is at 16 and 30. Vereniging's at 15 and 29 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. Flights to and from Hoedspruit in Limpopo have been suspended as severe flooding continues to disrupt movement and isolate communities in the area.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
7:02.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
On 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
7:02 Drive, it's 9 minutes past 5, middle of the week. Hope you've had a good one so far. Hope you've got some good things lined up for the rest of the week. And anything special on the weekend we ought to know about, that we ought to congratulate you about in advance. Give us a WhatsApp voice note on that, or send us a text, please, to 072702 1702. Still digesting all the educational stuff that's been coming up this week. First day of school today, issues around unplaced learners, substantial numbers in the Western Cape, problems in Limpopo. We've got plenty of kids who weren't able to start school today in Gauteng as well. You may want to comment on that on 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. Staying with educational matters, in the midst of a lot of praise for education officials, teachers and learners over the number of learners who actually pass matric, there are deep concerns that declining levels of participation in maths, never mind the pass rate, the numbers of learners who are actually doing maths in matric is going down as well. What's going on and what are the implications? We'll talk about that in a moment with Dr. Rebecca Selkirk, who's an education economist at Stellenbosch University. Staying down in the Western Cape in Parliament, the ad hoc committee looking into the allegations made by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi back in July last year. I've been hearing from a former acting police commissioner, Khomotso Patlane, Lieutenant General, I think as well. Khomotso Patlane is giving evidence and facing questions. Babalo and Denze keeping a close eye on that. So, plenty going on, and Stephen Curtis will wrap us up on what's been happening on the markets and let us know what he's going to offer us on the Money Show between 6 and 8. Good to have you with us. Some of you have been telling us about unlawful arrests by the police and your thoughts on memories of strict teachers in your past. Let's listen.
John here from Randburg. My son is only 8 and I'm already thinking about trying to get him into something that could teach him a skill after school. So whether it's carpentry or building or electrician or motor mechanic, something at his level that he can understand the very basics of, and later on learn the fundamentals. I know when he reaches matric, he's going to need to have a skill. Even if he goes to varsity, it would be great for him to be able to handle those things on his own. Thanks.
Hey, John. So in school, we had an English teacher, Mrs. Anna De Beer, and that woman was stern. She was so strict, and I mean, English was a bit tough. And I dreaded being in a register class. I didn't want to do it, but lo and behold, I ended up in a class, and actually, because I did well in English, she actually ended up being one of my favorite teachers. But before then, I was so timid of her, and she's probably one of the people that pushed me in my life. She really believed in me, and without her, I probably wouldn't have achieved some of the things that I had. Like whenever I did well in school for a specific year, she would take me to Spur because I used to like the ribs at Spur. And she passed away a few years ago, but there was a teacher that I used to be fearful of, but ultimately she became one of my favorites. Cheers.
Hi, afternoon all. Oh, wow. Wonderful topic. For me, not really, but there was this one particular teacher. I won't say I was scared of him. He was actually very nice, really cool. I'm the one person who I know anyway, who has his signature in my yearbook. Because I actually genuinely liked the guy. I thought he was really nice. He was strict. I went to Tom Nadia Technical High School, War School Tom Nadia, and yes, they lashed us. There was corporal punishment, and he had a very hard hand. His name was Paul Little, and he was my teacher at Tom Nadia Technical Drawing, or what you guys might know as architecture or something. I'm not sure what it's called now. But the point of the matter is, he was the sweetest guy ever when outside of that. But he was short, very hot-tempered. He beat up a lot of the kids. He would actually get physical with them, but it was like for fun and laughs with some of the kids as well. But what I'd love to say is it's those type of strict teachers that instilled discipline in us. The problem is if that discipline is external facing, not internal facing, then you have a problem once you get to university, because then in university everybody's chilled. No one cares about what you're up to, what you've done for the day. Now nobody gives a flying fudge. So now you're stuck in that.
Yeah, interesting. People saying strict teacher, great outcomes. Coming up in a moment, as I said, we're going to talk about our maths education in South Africa and what the matric results and in fact the matric profile tells us, because it's not just how many people pass maths, it's how many actually took it for matric. That in a moment, but at 5:15, let's just make sure we give you all the traffic news you need.
EWN Traffic.
EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 now, and you could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Karabo Charlie, still problems in the south?
Yeah, I'm afraid you can still expect more than a 2-hour delay. This is if you're leaving Alberton heading towards Soweto. Police have closed off the N12 westbound approaching the Deep Kloof interchange. This is due to a crime scene following a shootout. As a result, traffic is also heavily backed up on the Golden Highway and Main Road. That's driving through Southgate heading towards Eldorado Park. Traffic also heavily backed up on the M1 southbound through Ridgeway. I understand there's a commuter who sent us a voice note giving us their experience through there.
Hi guys, just an update on the incident on the N12. At the Reading interchange, just before Komoro turnoff, the traffic is backed up and people are actually turning around on the highway and making their way back to the R59 and creating heavy backlog to get onto the R59 as a detour. So just a heads up on that. Thank you.
Thanks for the heads up. So please avoid that route if you can. That's N12 westbound between Alberton and Soweto. Lenasia, also bumper-to-bumper traffic, R554 Nirvana Drive between the N1 bridge and the Golden Highway. And in Edenvale, traffic heavily backed up. N3 southbound, that's heading towards Germiston, London Road. This is between London Road and the Gilulis interchange. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The Outsurance Pointsmen can't help you find your child's missing school shoe, but they can ease the traffic congestion so you get there before that bell rings. With the Outsurance Pointsmen on the roads for the past 20 years, we can all get where we need to be quickly and safely in the new year. Outsurance really means it when they say you always get something out. In proud partnership with 702, show them some love online using #PointsmenLove, licensed insurer and FSP.
Driving the conversation on 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Powered by Telkom Business. Possibility begins here.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Well, invariably, questions are asked when the matric results come out. Some of these questions, it would seem, based on what is now in the spotlight, should have been asked long before the matric exams were set. The issue is not only the number of young South Africans who actually pass matric, but the drop in the maths pass rate is also mirrored by a drop in the number of learners who actually studied the subject and took it all the way to matric. So what's going on and how do we fix it? Dr. Rebecca Selkirk is an education economist from the Research on Socio-Economic Policy Group, and that's part of Stellenbosch University. Dr. Selkirk, welcome and thanks for giving us your time. Compliments of the new year to you. When do we need to look, or rather, how far back do we need to go to find the roots of this problem? Presumably, this doesn't begin in grades 10 or 11. There must be something we need to fix earlier than that.
Hi, John. Yes, thank you for having me. I think you make a good point there. So there's a lot of discussion every year about the participation at matric level and also the achievement. But it is the accumulation of 12 years of schooling. Mm-hmm. And frequently what's put forward is more learners should be encouraged to do mathematics. But by matric, that's too late. So one does need to start intervening earlier before the subject choice decision is even made in grade 10. And right back at the foundation phase where those critical fundamental math skills are first gained.
What is actually happening at the point at which a learner who has been doing maths either withdraws themselves withdraws themselves as a candidate for maths in matric, or is told, listen, don't do this, you're going to fail. And I'm sure there's more than one story to it. But are learners being discouraged by school systems where they say, look, we don't have a decent maths teacher, there is no point? Or is there a culture where young people are saying, listen, we're not up to it, it's simply too hard?
So I think it's difficult to know exactly what's going on because the scope of the South African school system is just so incredibly large.
Right.
What I suspect is that it's a whole lot of factors. Maths is, of course, seen as aspirational, and that leads to a lot of learners taking maths when they potentially shouldn't be taking maths because they then end up repeating and possibly even dropping out of school before reaching matric. But then on the other hand, I think we do place so much attention as a country on the matric pass rate itself. And we place a lot of pressure on the schools, I think on the districts as well, to achieve good matric pass rates. And so there is definitely a risk that schools might be advising learners to take mathematical literacy instead of mathematics
right.
in order to try and improve the pass marks. But what I will say is I think that's a smaller issue in that if you look at the levels of achievement, we're not in a situation where we have a lot of learners doing very well in mathematical literacy and not enough learners taking mathematics. We're in a situation where we don't have a lot of learners taking maths, but we also don't have that many learners who are likely to be successful if they were transferred over from maths lit to maths.
Yeah.
So I think it's a two-part issue in that we want more learners to take maths, but in order to do that, we first need to better address the skills of learners when they're entering grade 10 and making that choice.
I want to move further, Dr. Selkirk, up the pipeline of all of this and look at the kind of post-matric situation, because you've got universities looking for good maths matriculants. You've got industry looking either getting young people who may not necessarily go to university but come straight into the world of work. They're looking for people who have maths. I mean, what are they saying about this? Because clearly the needs of the country, but also the needs of individuals who want to find decent and sustainable work are also not being met. I mean, what are the conversations, for example, at Stellenbosch?
So I'll admit I'm not involved in those discussions. I'm more on the research side. But what I can say is there has been research that was done a couple of years ago comparing the number of matriculants with mathematics 40, 50, 60% marks to university programs which had maths and or physical science as entry requirements. And what was found there was that approximately 2/3 of first-year university students were subject to some minimum mathematics requirement, the physical science as well. And we did have an undersupply at the mathematics 50 and 60% marks. So the system wasn't producing and still is likely not producing candidates who are getting 50% or 60% for mathematics, with the implication being that universities are then having to accept candidates who have marks lower than that, who might not be adequately equipped to meet the demands.
I want to go back down the pipeline again and ask, what do we know about maths teachers and confident and capable maths teachers? Are we producing them? If we're not, can that be fixed?
I think there have been large improvements in this regard. There's been work done by the research group at Stellenbosch as well on teacher qualifications. Martin Gustafson's worked a lot on this. And it does appear that teachers or learners who entered university and studied teaching go towards the better achievers in terms of mathematics, not the top achievers who would be going to things like engineering or to the STEM subjects or commerce, but they were better students. But once again, one's dealing with a situation that if we aren't producing that many learners who get 50 or 60% for mathematics, we're not producing that many learners who can then go on and study to become teachers who have those levels of mathematics.
So many questions.
There have been improvements, but a lot to be done.
Thank you so much. So many questions answered, but a good start, I think. And for that, we thank Dr. Rebecca Selkirk joining us from Stellenbosch University, where she is an education economist. I mean, maybe your own insights with your own children, your own career in school, if it's relatively recent, and your journey through maths, successful or not. And maybe you work in schools or around in and around education. You've got some insights to share. It's a problem that's been around for absolute ages. And we've spoken about it, and it doesn't seem like we're getting close to a solution. I'd like to be wrong. 25 minutes past 5.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Well, speaking of maths, there have been some very, very large numbers as part of the conversation in the ad hoc committee in Parliament that's looking into the allegations made by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi back in July 2025. Currently giving his story and having questions asked about what he's had to say is a former Commissioner of Police, General Khomotso Phahlane. It's been an interesting day from the bits that I have caught. Babalo Ndenze, EWN reporter, has been watching it closely. Babalo, very good afternoon to you. What have we learnt from the evidence led by or delivered by Lieutenant General Khomotso Phahlane that maybe shed some light on the bigger questions about the police and abuse in the South African Police Service? Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, John. Yes, indeed. General Phahlane spent most of today taking questions from Norman Arends, the evidence leader, around his dismissal from the police. I know he was acting police commissioner between 2015 and 2017 before Fikile Mbalula, dismissed him. He says this was an illegal decision. He was asked to step aside, and he says there's no provision in law to ask a acting commissioner to step aside. It should have been ideally Jacob Zuma, the then president, who should have dismissed him. And he's also touched on issues around, interference in the police. Where he says political interference in SAPS has been really prevalent. It's not really a new thing. It started way back.
Yes.
Since the Polokwane ANC conference. He says where many of these things started happening. So he says these practices are not, the norm. And, and also he says that he was, the first, commissioner or acting commissioner rather, who was the last, sorry, I beg your pardon, John, was the last national commissioner who was appointed through a cabinet decision. And he says commissioners after him were really done, without cabinet or full cabinet approval. These were mainly, unilateral decisions by the president. And he's basically taking the committee through that. But he's also, focused quite a lot of his evidence or his testimony today on this dismissal. And it was related to a 2014 tender, which has to do with, panoramic cameras that the police were using. And, members saying that, this tender was also irregular expenditure because some of these cameras during Phahlane's tenure were never delivered. And this was wasteful and irregular expenditure. And, also Phahlane defending actually the contract, saying that, he was empowered to do to take some of the decisions that he took in relation to that tender. But he's just now started to get into some of the, the main issues of his testimony, because the MP as well as the chairperson and MPs, members of the committee, have said most of his evidence has been irrelevant, and he's using the committee or the committee as some kind of a labor dispute resolution forum, and the members are telling him not to do that because the case is still pending. His case is still pending in the Labour Appeals Court, where he's trying to get his job back. But the committee says that he can't use this forum as this, and this does not have anything to do with the terms of reference of the committee. But they've finally got to a point where they're getting into these terms of reference, John, and discussing some of the issues in this affidavit that are of interest to the committee, and it's related to a plot to remove him as commissioner, which he says was led by the likes of Paul O'Sullivan, the controversial forensic investigator. He says that IPED's head, Robert McBride, was also part of this plot to have him removed or have him not to get the job full time. And he also mentions a number of journalists that he just mentioned now, just before they took a break until 5:30. So he's really now getting into the crux of the matter on issues that are related to his dismissal and who was behind, getting him removed from the National Commissioner acting position. And we're going to hear more about this, John, as we get into the evening. I think they're going to sit until 9 p.m., according to the chairperson. And we might now start to see members of the committee, put their own questions to him after, really a day of the evidence leader really dealing with some of these issues about his labor dispute, as well as the plot against him or the agenda to get him removed as National Commissioner.
Thank you so much, Babalo and Denza. Yeah, they're going to go on at least till 9 o'clock. My bet is they'll go on beyond that. 5:29. Let's get the latest market news.
EWN Business.
Stephen Critters, good afternoon to you once again.
Afternoon, John. The JSE All Share down 0.09% on the day, 120,857. Financials down 0.36. Industrials down 0.2%. Resources up 0.8% on the day, so not nearly as much as the last couple of days, despite the fact that gold still above $4,600. Platinum's been quite strong. The other big story, John, is oil. Come off a bit in the last hour, but still was hitting $66 an hour ago, $65 now, and that obviously, I presume, relates to what's been happening in Iran. Alphaman, they're up 6.18%. Sasol also up 5.6%, I'm sure related to the oil price. Glencore, also in the coal business, they're up 3.7%, and AB InBev up 3%, while some of the platinum miners doing nicely. Implat's up 2.6, while Northam's up 2.48. Northam did report today that they increased platinum group metal production by 3.1% in the first half of the current financial year compared to the same period last year, increased their chrome concentrate production by nearly 15% as well. Tiger Brands down nearly 10.5%, while Pepkor is down 5%, and then Harmony down 3.37%, and the property company Growth Point down 3% on the day as well. I must just say, it's not just Pepkor and Tiger Brands in the consumer market that are down. Pick and Pay down 2.26% on the day as well. In the US, investors really sort of digesting some new data around retail sales. The Dow Jones down 0.38%, the Nasdaq down 1.35%, the S&P 500 down 0.86% on the day. The gold price, $4,606.59 an ounce. Platinum, $2,381. Brent crude, $65.76. And the rand to the dollar, 16.37 to the euro, 19.08 to the British pound, 22.02. On the Money Show tonight, John, while Lesetja Kganyago joined so many other central bank governors in expressing their support for the chair of the U.S. Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell. Also, this issue around the prime interest rate. And whichever way you sort of shake this about, I can't see any change to what you and I pay in terms of our debt. But the Reserve Bank does seem to be looking at prime. It's really just a convention, not much more than that. We'll talk also to the people who compiled the World Economic Forum Risk Report. People very concerned about uncertainty. And then from 7:30, your shapeshifter tonight, someone I've known for a little while, actually, Ayabonga Trawe. He was a broadcaster, John, and now he is, in fact, the Commissioner of the International Trade Administration Commission. I bet he had more fun when he was with us than he does now.
I wouldn't bet on that at all. He'll tell you.
Stephen Critters.
Different kinds of fun.
Yes. Stephen Critters, EWN Business.
Thanks, Stephen. Don't miss the Money Show from 6. 27 minutes now to 6. Time to catch up with the latest news. We go down to the Western Cape. I believe firefighters still battling there. Maki Molapo has the details.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. Cape Winelands firefighters are still battling to extinguish remaining fire lines of the Vermershoek fire and Franschhoek, which has been burning for exactly a week today. However, fire officials say they've made progress in suppressing some active fire lines above Mont Rochelle and above the Versantekraal area. But they say the fire line above Steynskloof Dam has moved downslope and continues to burn in inaccessible areas. Cape Winelands District Municipality spokesperson Aneska Ruet.
These sections continue to be closely monitored and will remain a priority for suppression efforts when conditions allow. Monitoring for flare-ups and mopping up operations are ongoing in areas where the fire has been contained. Rainfall is forecast for this evening and teams are cautiously optimistic that it will support firefighting efforts and positively impact the status of the fire.
Meanwhile, local government MEC Anton Bedell says with rainfall predictions for the coming months deficient, the fire season has automatically been extended. This comes as the province continues with mopping up operations in other areas and dousing flames in others following weeks of devastating fires. At least 100,000 hectares of land have been lost to wildfires throughout the province.
I cannot send these helicopters and planes back because they really help us a lot. They save lives, etc. But we need to understand that now, but because of climate change and so forth, we need to extend our fire season.
5 suspects have been arrested for the murder of 2 women in Poortjie in the south of Johannesburg. The 25-year-olds Nontokozo Mazibuko and Andi Sosontangane were last seen on December 30th last year. Their families reported them missing to the police on New Year's Eve when their search started. On January 8th, their partially decomposed bodies were discovered. However, there was no trace of their car they left home with. Gauteng police spokesperson Dimakatso Nebului.
Through intelligence information, the team of investigators managed to trace and arrest 5 suspects and recover an unlicensed firearm on the 13th of January 2026. 4 of the suspects were arrested in Everton, while the 5th one was arrested in Germiston.
The suspects are facing charges of hijacking, kidnapping and murder.
A preliminary investigation led the team to Brad's, where they discovered the victim's vehicle abandoned at a car wash. The vehicle was fixed with false number plates but had the correct disc number. The firearm will be subjected to ballistic testing to determine whether it has been used in the commission of crime.
In the National Assembly, members of Parliament's ad hoc committee investigating police corruption have warned former acting police commissioner Khomotso Phahlane against using the inquiry to discuss his labour dispute and dismissal. The committees objected to Phahlane veering off topic and from the committee's terms of reference to complain about his suspension and dismissal from the SAPS by former Police Minister Fikile Mbalula. Phahlane is still fighting his 2020 dismissal in the Labour Appeals Court. Committee chairperson Soviet Lechanyane has told him the hearings are not some kind of labour forum.
We have not said it once in the proceedings, we said it many times, that General Phahlane, we are not a dispute resolution forum and we are not in a review process.
Committee member Glenys Breitenbach has also added her voice, saying Phatlane's evidence is irrelevant.
Mr. Phahlane is now just talking constantly about prosecuting his own labour-related issues. It's got nothing to do with the terms of reference of this committee. Completely irrelevant to the work we have to do.
And the UK government has scrapped plans to make a new digital ID card mandatory to work in Britain. This marks a shift from last year when the government first announced the policy in which Minister Keir Starmer stated that no one would be able to work in the United Kingdom if they don't have a digital ID. This sparked criticism from far-right figures, saying the programme would be used to boost government control over people's lives. While the new ID could no longer be mandatory for employment, Finance Minister Rachel Reeves insists the right to work would still become contingent on providing a form of digital verification. A look at your weather. Cloudy skies in store for Gauteng tomorrow with isolated showers and thunder showers expected. Temperatures will drop to overnight lows between 14 and 16 degrees and peak at highs between 27 and 30 degrees.
Leaving Alberton heading towards Soweto, the N12 westbound remains closed off to traffic approaching the Deep Kloof interchange. This is due to a crime scene following a shootout. At this stage, you can still expect more than a 2-hour delay all the way from the N3 Elands interchange. As a result, you can also expect more than an hour delay on the Golden Highway that's driving through Southgate heading towards Aldos, as well as the M1 traffic backed up through Ridgeway.
The top story in Eyewitness News. The Cape Islands firefighters are still battling to extinguish remaining fire lines of the Vermeershoek fire in Franschhoek, which has been burning for exactly a week today.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
What's the plan with this 2,500 odd pupils that haven't been placed? What's going to happen to them?
No, our places have been temporary spaces because we're building new schools closer to them so that we can place them. So those new schools will be up latest end of February. But it does not mean when you place them in temporary schools, they are not going to be taught. They'll be taught in those particular schools. But remember, you can't say you are putting learners in a hall and say that is a space. So we have to build them schools. They need classrooms, as an example. So this is what we're doing.
Matume Chilwani, Gauteng Education MEC.
Clements Manyatela.
9 to 12 on 702.
Running a business can feel like a solo mission. I mean, you've got the hustle. If only your office Wi-Fi was your employee of the month. Turn on your success with Telkom Business, the partner that always shows up. Get a reliable 25 by 25 megabytes per second connection with Stream Connect Fiber for only 489 rands per month.
This summer, your business deserves the best. Visit telkom.co.za/business for deals that connect your business. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
With increased holiday traffic across South Africa and through our regional borders, road safety is more important than ever. Let us all be custodians of safe road behavior. Don't drink and drive. Don't drink and jaywalk. Don't drink and text. Every time you look at your phone while driving, you lose about 5 seconds of concentration, enough to cause a crash with devastating consequences. Stay alert. Stay responsible. Brought to you by the Department of Transport, moving South Africa forward.
Managing your workforce shouldn't be complicated. That's why businesses choose Onacy, a proudly South African cloud-based payroll and HR solution. From payroll and e-recruitment to performance management and self-service tools, we streamline the way businesses handle their people. Scalable, secure, and always online, our system evolves with your needs because your workforce deserves the best. Switch to Onacy and experience payroll and HR done right. Visit onacy.com today.
At Richfield, we don't just offer degrees, we open doors to a learning experience of a lifetime. Your education should be about growth you can feel, skills you can use, and support from your first class to your final graduation. Study online or at one of our 8 premium campuses. We support you with job-ready skills and a world-class curriculum. Apply at richfield.ac.za. Richfield, your future enriched.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
In the math situation, my daughter struggled with normal maths, and she had to change in grade 10 to math literacy. So when she matriculated with a bachelor's degree, she didn't qualify to study for a degree in accounting. So what she did a higher certificate in accounting, which is actually acceptable as an alternate to normal maths. So it doesn't mean that your future is limited if you've got math literacy. There is other types of qualifications you can do to get to where you want to be.
The issue with maths in this day and age has got absolutely nothing to do with the teachers. There's so many resources, so many free tutorials, so many books where learners can go and engage. I was a learner that didn't necessarily understand the way that my teacher taught, but when other people taught me or someone gave me a different perspective, I caught it a lot easier, and some of the times that's the case, and most times that's the case. The second thing is students have to practice. You know, your maths teacher always tells you, practice. But a lot of us, myself included, where you go to maths school, you do maths at school, and you close a book and you don't do anything until it's preparation for exam time. The secret to maths is just doing as many examples as you possibly can, because one of those examples is going to show up in your exam, and if you've done it before, you'll get the marks.
Yeah, and on that theme that learners need to take their destiny much more in their own hands, that's echoed by Mulife, who says, my sincere opinion said with utmost respect, I think we need to shift from blaming teachers and schools. Our very own kids need to come to the party as well and commit themselves. Those who prioritize their education win, says Mulife. Interesting observation. What's yours? 072 702 1702, 17 minutes to 6.
EWN Sport.
AFCON semi-finals tonight. 2 Liverpool players, Tolakele, who, if I recall, didn't particularly get on playing tonight.
Absolutely, John. And Mohamed Salah will face off against former Reds teammate Sadio Mane. That's when Ija
clash with Senegal in their first AFCON semi-final this evening. That encounter will be followed by host Morocco taking on Nigeria, with the former looking to stay on course to win just their second ever continental title. The Moroccan Federation have invested heavily into their national team over the last few years, and coach Walid Rigariou has discussed his job security should the Atlas Lions fail to lift the trophy.
Every coach, when he have this job, he need to prepare for this, but it's not my mindset. Never. I'm here to make the best squad in the pitch, to help my player, and to do the best to be happy my country and the fans, and what to try to do tomorrow. If I'm going with this spirit, never I do this job. I'm not afraid about this.
The run to the semi-finals is somewhat of a redemption campaign for the Super Eagles after they failed to qualify for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. But tonight's task will be even tougher for Eric Chell's side. That's due to the absence of suspended captain Wilfred Ndidi.
I'm disappointed for him because he brings so much for the team. But we are a group. There is some very good player who are in the pitch, and we wait a chance to show something that they can bring us. So I'm very confident about that. So just I have to do a choice between some player, and everything will be fine.
Mikel Arteta has spoken about embracing the opportunity of their Carabao Cup semi-final against Chelsea as Arsenal target their first major trophy since 2020. The second half of the season will be a big one for the Gunners, who are involved in 4 competitions, including the Premier League and UEFA Champions League.
You get to this stage in the competition, you get to the final, and you get over the line and win it. It brings energy, it brings belief, and the sense that everybody is very important and playing part of that. So yeah, I think it's something when you get there and win it, everybody remembers, and if not, nobody does. So once you get there, get the job done.
Michael Carrick has been boosted ahead of his first game in charge of Manchester United. That's with the return of Ahmad and Brian Bemo from the Africa Cup of Nations. Carrick has been appointed as interim head coach until the end of the season, and his first assignment will be the derby against rival City at Old Trafford on Saturday.
Yeah, but you know, this coming into this club from the very start, the big games, the important games, is what we all live for. You know, it's what we live for. Some are more challenging than others, yeah, but it's why we're here. You know, so we'll go for it head on.
And Sebastian Ofner has missed out on Australian Open qualification after forgetting the rules. He thought he'd clinch victory over Nashish Basavaredi at 7-1 in the third set tiebreak, but they played to 10 points, meaning he still needed another 3 points to win. Ofner only realized his mistake when the umpire spoke to him, and Basavaredi added insult to injury by winning the next 9 points. That's to advance to the final round of qualifying at Melbourne Park. Tholakele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Okay, let's find out what's happening on the roads at 14 minutes to 6. This EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS the word out to 45142 now, and you could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Karabo Charlie, what's up?
Well, at this stage, if you're leaving Alberton heading towards Soweto, police have closed off the N12 westbound approaching the Deep Kloof interchange. This is due to a crime scene following a shootout. At this stage, you can expect more than a 2-hour delay all the way from the N3 Elands interchange. As a result, there's also about an hour delay. This is on the Golden Highway driving through Southgate heading towards Eldorado Park. There's also bumper traffic M1 South through Ridgeway. In Kibla Park, still in the south, there's slow-moving traffic on the R82 southbound approaching the R554 Sam Nduli Road. In Lenasia, also bumper traffic on the R554 Nirvana Drive. That's between the N1 bridge and the Golden Highway. And in Edenvale, heading towards Germiston, traffic heavily backed up. N3 southbound between London Road and the Gililis interchange. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. There's a car with a work commuter. She's done this route 1,000 times. Perhaps she's daydreaming of a different job or just counting down to the weekend. The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just another car in traffic. It's anticipation on the move. Every story's different and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005 in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
Stay with 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possibility begins here.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
702 Drive. So in this part of the show, what we do is spend some time listening to music. What I like about it is I get to share with you some of the things that really connect with me music-wise. Maybe they relate to a story or a question we're asking. I get to hear what my colleagues like. And then I get from many of you, and from my colleagues, it should be said, tips about music that I absolutely know nothing about, have never heard about. And in this next instance that's about to unfold, musical genres and bands that I know zero about. Zip. Although I must admit, Randall Abrams will be with us on Friday at 10 to 5, has sometimes delved into, for me, the unfamiliar world of K-pop. So, Kabazela, you thought we should talk about K-pop today. I'm just Googling it, and I see that a very prominent band, the Idols, BTS, have a 79-date world tour. They're not coming here, so I don't know if you're going to be going there. London, Tokyo, Munich, Sydney, LA, take your pick. They expected to make $1 billion, so clearly a lot of people like them.
Yeah, I think they were responsible for like the worldwide explosion of K-pop, Korean pop. And obviously on that news, I thought today we should ask our 702 family about their favorite K-pop song.
Yes.
Now, I must admit, like you, I'm no expert on this, or I don't have many K-pop songs in my playlist. But towards the end of last year, on a lot of TikTok videos, this song was being used, and people were singing it and trying to hit the high notes. There were dances to it, and it got me intrigued, and I listened to it, and it's actually a very, very nice song. So my pick for today is a K-pop song. It is called Golden, and it is sung by EJ, then Audrey Nuna, and Ray Ami. And it's from a fictional K-pop band in, I think it was a movie called Demon Hunters. And their band in this movie called Demon Hunters is called Hunter X. And it's 3 girls that sing this song. It's really, really nice. So maybe after listening to this, you'll download it onto your playlist, and then that'll be your first K-pop song.
It's the very least I can do. I'm looking forward to it. This is Golden. It's by Huntrix, and it sets us off on the question, do you have a favorite K-pop band, a favorite K-pop song? And if you want to, by the way, as you share the song, you may want to tell us how you got into this genre. I mean, I don't want to get sort of too archaeological about it or anthropological, whatever, because maybe, people just get into music in all kinds of ways, pick it up on the internet, on TikTok, and so on. But yeah, not part of my musical library or understanding at all. So I'm ready to be schooled by Kabazela first with his selection, and then by yours. 072 702 1702.
I was a ghost, I was alone. 두어진 길 속에. Given the throne, I didn't know how to believe I was the queen that I'm meant to be. I lived 2 lives, tried to play both sides, but I couldn't find my own place. Caught a left child, 'cause I got too wild, but now that's how I'm getting paid. 끝없이 on stage, I'm done hiding, now I'm shining like I'm born to be. We dreaming hard, we came so far, now I believe. We're going up, 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 it's our moment. You know together we're going, gonna be golden. Up, up, up with our voices. You wanna get just so on there, gonna be golden.
Huntrix, a fictional K-pop girl group, part of the musical film K-pop Demon Hunters. EJ, Audrey Nuna, and Ray Ami, as BTS set out on a 79-date world tour, which is expected to gross $1 billion. We're asking you, K-pop, part of your musical inventory? No, what's the playlist inventory? Musical playlist, is K-pop there? And if it is, who is top of your list? Drop that in for us on 072 702 1702. It's 6 minutes to 6.
702 Afternoons
with Relebohile Mabota, 1 to 3 p.m.
What are your thoughts on the people that say you should only ever use your credit card for security reasons, but that should be the case if you are able to be disciplined enough to pay it off before the interest kicks in?
It's good advice if you're in a position to be able to do that. Unfortunately, the majority of South Africans need credit facilities to get through a month on a month-on-month basis from normal expenses. The critical thing for them, though, is just make sure that you can afford that installment. And another great thing you touched on there, become very, very clever in using those loyalty programs.
Jaco van Jaarsveld, Chief Strategy and Innovation Officer at Experian.
702 Afternoons
with Relebohile Mabota.
Let's walk the talk.
Matric class of 2025, ready to spread your wings? South African Airways makes your uni journey easier with all-inclusive one-way fares from Joburg to Durban from 690 Rand, from Johannesburg to Gqeberha from 655, and from Johannesburg to Cape Town from 1,144. Plus, pack more of what you need with 2 check bags instead of 1. On sale until 12 February. Travel by 12 Feb 2026. Book now at flysaa.com. T's and C's apply.
Hollywood Bets invites you to take the lead. The sizzling summer competition is giving you a chance to bask in horse racing glory and blaze into red-hot rewards. Bet 50 Rand or more on horse racing online or at your nearest branch, and you could win a share of 1 million Rand in prizes. Enjoy a star-studded lineup of equestrian events this summer and settle up for a season of success. Bet now. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
Let's hear from Chantel and Mel, owners of Jelly Body and Nail Studio, why it pays to switch to Outsurance Business Insurance.
We were with our previous insurer for about 4 years, and when we decided to switch, it was actually a flawless process. It definitely pays to switch.
For beauty salons, convenience stores, and all other businesses, get a quote today and see why it pays to switch to Outsurance Business Insurance. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman was proudly brought to you by Telkom Business. Possibility begins here.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hi, today, John. My favorite K-pop band is Huntrix 2 because of my children. They introduced me to the movie, and I love it. We know all the songs. So, yeah, the car just went crazy right now because of playing Golden. This is Lerato in Midrand.
Hi, Dr. John. So personally, I do not listen to K-pop per se, but I watch a lot of K-dramas. And from there, I've acquainted myself with a lot of Korean songs, which is what my playlist is full of. I can hear nothing about what they're saying, but the music is great. So that's how I got into it. I hope that helps. Unfortunately, even if I wanted to recommend a song that we can play, I cannot type it out because I do not know the names, because they type a whole different thing. But the songs are nice, I guarantee you that. Thank you for a great show always.
Hi, John. So yesterday was a very important day on the ARMY, the fandom of BTS calendar. And we got the dates released for the much anticipated tour. Unfortunately, South Africa weren't on there, but they did say they will release more dates. But the song that then made me cry it's called Tear, like teardrops, but Tear. It talks about being in heartbreak, and I literally cried when we didn't see any dates for South Africa.
너는 내게 튀어 나도 모르게 내 눈가 위에 피어 내뱉지 못한 얘기들이 흐르고 미련이 날 얼굴 위를 기어 내게 넌 한때는 아이디어 하지만 이제 쓰기만 한 빌 대늦은 자기 혐오로 얼룩지 심장은 스치는 저 바람에도 빌 이별은 거짓뿐이던 나 영국 끝에 오야 말았던 날 때가 누군가 시간을 되돌려준다면 어쩜 내가 좀 더 솔직할 수 있었을까 나만 아는 나의 금연 얼굴도 추억 초라한 내 안에 오랜 버튼도 나를 보던 그 미소로 여전히 넌 나를 그렇게
Yeah, I'm just looking at the BTS tour dates and thinking which would be the closest for you since they're not coming here. You go to Madrid on the 26th of June. You could pencil that in. Paris is probably just as close. And Buenos Aires might be your best bet in October. I'm John Perlman. Hope you've enjoyed being with us. We've certainly loved having you. From all of us, good night.
And now, The Money Show.
With Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
And DSTV channel 856.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by Absa Corporate and Investment Banking, a Pan-African bank that's invested in your story because your story matters. Good evening on your Money Show tonight. Lesetja Kganyago joins other central bank governors in publicly backing Jerome Powell against Donald Trump. The Competition Commission confirms it's investigating the prime lending rate. That's unlikely to affect what you pay on your debt. The World Economic Forum says uncertainty and geo-economic confrontation are the biggest risks to the global economy. We'll examine how to be positive without being toxic, and your shapeshifter tonight. The person in charge of the International Trade Administration Commission, Ayabonga Kawe. All of that to come, but first, the very latest Eyewitness News.
A very good evening. I am Puleng Maake. We begin with news just in. Controversial head of the publicly owned Independent Development Trust, Tebogo Malaka, has resigned. Last year, Malaka was caught on video trying to bribe a journalist to make a story go away. Last year, Malaka was caught on video trying to bribe a journalist to make a story go away. A forensic report also implicated her in the irregular 836 million rand oxygen tender, where it alleged she facilitated for the tender to be awarded to an unqualified company. Malaka has denied all allegations against her. In a statement issued, the IDT says Malaka has resigned from her position as CEO effective from 31st of January. It says she won't be receiving an exit payout. Now in the Western Cape, Cape Winelands firefighters are still battling to extinguish remaining fire lines of the Vemershoek fire in Franschhoek, which has been burning for exactly a week today. However, fire officials say they've made progress in suppressing some active fire lines above Mont Rochelle and above Vissantekral. But they say the fire line above Stetty's Kloof Dam has moved downslope and continues to burn in inaccessible areas. Cape Winelands District Municipality spokesperson Anes Karut.
These sections continue to be closely monitored and will remain a priority for suppression efforts when conditions allow. Monitoring for flare-ups and mopping up operations are ongoing in areas where the fire has been contained. Rainfall is forecast for this evening and teams are cautiously optimistic that it will support firefighting efforts and positively impact the status of the fire.
Meanwhile, local government MEC Anton Bradel says with rainfall predictions for the coming months, the fire season has automatically been extended. This comes as the province continues with mopping up operations in other areas and dozing flames in others following weeks of devastating fires. At least 100,000 hectares of land have been lost to wildfires throughout the province.
They cannot send these helicopters and planes back because they really help us a lot. They save lives, etc. But we need to understand that now, because of climate change,